And good evening, everybody, and welcome to the 10-day challenge finale. So it's been 10 days. We know it's sometimes tough for you to do those things. Um, for us, we've been doing the 21 days, so we finish tomorrow. So we've been there with you, just in a longer phase. So first of all, I just want you to know that looks like we made it. So I can't sing, so that's as good as you get. So congratulations, you made it to 10 days. Really appreciate that, because I think that it's been a hard haul for some patients, because it's a fairly new thing for them to do. So we're here to support you, and we are with you if you need anything. So remember, type in the chat box if you have any questions, and we will get to you as we go. So welcome. And first of all, I want to also welcome Dr. Reed's patients. Reed Chiropractic has joined us these past 3 classes, and they are doing it the 10-day class with Dr. Reed's office, and Dr. Reed is in the house as well. So we've been working together to coordinate this. So welcome all of Dr. Reed's patients. And also, I want to let you know that on October 27th, I did send an email out, and from 4 to 6 p.m. at the Eustis office only. And this is only for Dr. Basudin's patients and Dr. Cooper's patients. We're going to do a complimentary health screening, and you'll have to sign up. I sent the email out this morning, and we're already filling up pretty quick. So if you haven't called and gotten your spot, please call tomorrow morning. It will be a heart sound recorder. This measures the heart-related nutritional deficiency, so it's a really cool technology. We'll do a glucose, we'll do a cholesterol, we'll do blood pressure and pulse. We'll also do your oxygen saturation. That way you know if you have been sick, if your lungs are working properly, and if you've been smoking, we will know. And then we'll also do the in-body 570 measurement. Now remember, my in-body is what we call it the truth slayer. So it's really great at telling everything that's going on in your body. So it will measure your bone mass, your water mass, your fat mass, and your muscle mass. So it tells you where everything is. The purpose of doing this now is not only for my people on the class, but other patients as well, to get a baseline. In February, we're going to do another test, which will be kind of a retest, and we'll do it after the 21 days. So if we have some health issues that are ongoing right now, then we want to make sure we have the chance to see how they do. I do like to use the evidence that we get, the data that we do collect, so that we can have a chance to be able to make those things better, and show you that, just eating and exercising can make a whole lot of difference. So mark that on your calendars. That's October 27th. That's next Wednesday, a week from today, from 4 to 6 p.m. in the Eustis office. I don't do it in the Winter Park office because I have my fancy scale in the Eustis office. I only have one, and it needs to be on a firm surface. So it'll be in the Eustis office. Will probably do it again, so I'll make sure everybody knows about it. All right, so because we're doing a 10-day, and we talked a lot about macros and what your macros are, your fats, your proteins, and your carbohydrates. And we talked about keto, a keto style of eating where you keep lower in your carbohydrates and higher in your fat. Well, the other reason I want to add that information in is because it really is a big factor in longevity. And when we talk about longevity, we're talking about the people like in Okinawa. Okinawa has the oldest living people in the world. For every 1,000 people, there are 100 centenarians. So there's 100 people over 100 years old for every 1,000 people. So that's a huge number. And so why wouldn't we just look and see what they do, what's right? So the key things they do is they don't eat a lot of carbohydrates. They only eat 1 meal a day. They work in their gardens, they exercise, they get up early, they go to bed early, and they do something to give back. So it doesn't take rocket science to say, well, if it's working for them, why not let it work for us? So I wanted to cover some longevity tonight because I think it's a big factor. I know the faces on the screen here, behind the screen. So I know we're all in that age group where we want to live and live well, and we don't want to be 90 years old sitting in a wheelchair drooling on ourselves. So I think is really important, for myself included, to work on longevity. So I want you to understand the impact of the nutrition and the genetics. Now, I teach a class to doctors. I'm not teaching that to you because it's just too much. So, but I am going to pick some of the stuff out of there that I think is really important that will help you understand. So I, I always like to say that almost everyone wants to live a long life, but actually nobody wants to get old. So this is the truth. You know, we still think we're at the age we are, even though we look in the mirror and we're like, who is that? I have a patient who is 100 years old now. Cute lady. She's got Lucille Ball, flaming red hair, and she's a ballroom dancer. And she'll come into me, and I asked her one day, I said, so do you feel like you're this old? She said, honey, I looked in the mirror the other day and I said, who is that old bitch? And I was like, oh my. So even her, as old as she is, she still feels young inside, and she's doing things to keep that way. So when we talk about longevity, what are the keys to that? Well, definitely good genes, good gut bacteria, good mitochondria, moderate exercise, calorie restriction, meaning not eating to your meeting and being gluttonous, but restricting your food, and intermittent fasting, which is where that calorie restriction can come in, as well as a ketogenic diet. And I went into a lot of depth. I know I talked fast. I sent you the recording. I apologize ahead. I am now trying to really slow my stories down. So here we go. So what is the definition of longevity? It's the period of time an organism is expected to live under ideal circumstances. Now, do we all live in ideal circumstances? Well, no. I mean, think about pollution, think about, you know, if you've had an accident, all those things are not ideal. If you have the sources of food you have availability to. So those are all the things that we do. If you drink too much or smoke too much, all those things are not ideal circumstances. So our body does the best it can do. So, but we can help it along. So the statistics, and to me, these are very sad statistics here. How is it in the United States, we spend the most money on healthcare, yet we have one of the lowest life expectancies of all developed nations? I mean, to be specific, 79 years, and we're 31st in line with all the other countries. And like I say, we spend the most money on healthcare, but we really don't have a healthcare system. My soapbox is we have a disease care system. So my job is to teach you how to keep yourself well so we don't enter into those chronic disease phases. So how long can we potentially live? Well, Jean Calmet single-handedly set the maximum lifespan for humans at 122.45 years. She was born in 1897. So she was considered the oldest living woman by, can't think of the source of the Guinness Book of World Records. So, but I believe there's another man that's kind of right up there. So, and he happens to be Asian. So that's interesting because Okinawa is in that country where that mindset has been very formative for those people. So there's a 116-year-old Japanese woman crowned the world oldest person by the Guinness Book of World Records. Her name is Kane Tanaka. She wakes up at 6 a.m. every morning. She likes to study math, never stops learning other subjects just for fun, and she competes in a board game called Othello. So if you keep your brain active and you keep your body active, you can live a long time and be a worthy citizen instead of just drooling on yourself. So what did our ancestors do right? So they grew their own food, they cooked with whole foods, they barely snacked, they engaged in physical labor, they went to bed early, they got up early, they ate a traditional diet, and they led a simple life, and they did not have electronics. I mean, certainly electronics can be our downfall because we go to a restaurant and you just see people buried in their cell phones and not even engaging in having conversation. So I think probably I would say out of all of those, electronics and lack of physical labor is our key here. So what causes aging? So there are some factors in aging. So on our chromosomes, we have something called telomeres, and the telomeres are at the top and bottom of the chromosome. And over time, those telomeres, they lose their length, so they shorten, and that is a factor of aging. Chronological aging, risk factors increase over time. So the older we get, the more likely we are to have a fracture or have chronic disease or have some type of accident. Oxidative stress. So we know what sun damage does to our skin. Those oxidants then damage our DNA, the proteins and our lipids in our body. That is another factor of aging. And fourth is glycation. Those glucose, it's the glucose sugar, it binds to and inhibits DNA, proteins, and lipids. So go ahead and have another donut, honey, because it's just going to make you older. So remember, we talked the very first night that sugar ages your organs, ages your arteries and your veins, and it doesn't do anything good to us, but raise our cholesterol, amongst other things. Sets us up for chronic disease. So, we always have names for how we age. I like to say, I don't like to say anti-aging. I like to say more healthy aging. We had terrible twos, we had growing pains, we had quarter life crisis, we have the dirty 30s, we have the middle age, and we have the over the hill. We're really good at naming our aging process. But I think healthy aging really is what we want to achieve in that longevity standpoint. And how long you live is up to you. I mean, look where your parents are. I mean, how they lived and how they ate. So we look at a couple of factors of genetics and epigenetics. So you're not your mom's genes. I have to throw my funny stuff in there. I'm so sorry. So what is a healthy lifestyle in this 21st century? So there are 5 very specific areas that have been studied incredibly. If you go to like PubMed, you can pull all these reports up, and these have a large impact on the risk of premature death. And the number 1 is diet. That's a no-brainer. Number 2 is exercise. Number 3 is body weight. Number 4 is smoking, and number 5 is alcohol. If you can say that you are good with all 5 of those, you have a chance of living a very healthy life and no premature death, because some of those factors are related to chronic disease. So these are what we call the factors influencing human aging and longevity. So we have intrinsic factors. Those are our genetic factors. You're pretty much dealt the hand that you have. Then we have epigenetic factors. Those are external factors that integrate with the internal factors to create an aging process or longevity process. Certainly diet and lifestyle, this is changeable. Environment, we're lucky to live in Florida. We don't have all that smoke. We have mosquito patrol going around. That's probably the worst thing that we have. But we do have, pollution from the cars, from factories. You can see the plants for the nuclear plants. You can see the smoke coming out of those. I mean, we can only go to space how many times and break through, into orbit to, maybe create some trauma to our system as well for an environmental system. So all these are factors that really influence our aging. So this is the bottom line. Healthy diet. I should just end on this slide, but here it is. Healthy diet, lifestyle factors, and longevity. You have to have a minimum physical activity of 3.5 hours per week. That's 30 minutes a day. You sit for 6 or 8 hours, so 30 minutes a day is what you should be doing. So it has to be in the form of either exercise by cardiovascular and strength training. Number 2, don't smoke. If you're smoking, just stop. Number 3, moderate alcohol drinking. I'll let you have a glass of wine and not a 12-ounce pour. And remember, 1 glass of wine has incredible health benefits, but the second glass you drink totally negates the first. So women can have a little less than men. Their guys are usually bigger, so that's why. More muscle mass. Alternative health style eating. Eating more whole foods. Instead of what I call 1 ingredient foods. You pick up a piece of broccoli in the store, and it's broccoli. And then body mass index. If you've taken my class before, if you've come in to have a functional medicine appointment with me, we've calculated your BMI. There are all types of, you can just Google a BMI calculator, and it's a formula that goes with your height and your weight, and it'll give you a number. So you want to keep your BMI, your body mass index, between 18.5 and 24.9. When you get to the 25, it puts you into the overweight category. When you get into the 30, it puts you into the obese category. And I've been doing this a long time. I used to take body fats and BMIs on kids when I taught school. And it's amazing. I'll take them on patients, and I tell them their BMI says they're obese, and they're like, they just can't believe that. But that means just because you're not you don't look like you've got a lot of fat. You may be more fat in the muscles. So we call that person a TOFI, thin on the outside, fat on the inside. And that in-body 570 at my office is what will give you the truth. That's why we call it the truth slayer. But it gives you a starting point. I coach doctors and I coach patients. And what I tell them is that you can't get to where you want to be until you know where you are. So if I blindfold everybody in the audience and I take you out and drop you in the woods and tell you to come back to my office, you can't do it because you have to know where you're starting from. And if you're going to go on vacation, you have to know where you want to go. So doing the baseline like we're going to do next week is a great starting point so that you can see where you are. And that way you can make those changes you need to make. So good genes, some of us are lucky. We've got good genes. I feel like I'm pretty grateful. And my mom is on the call tonight. So, she's got good genes. She's, I can say it because she's on the other end. She can't stop me, but she's 84 years young. And, she does all standard process supplementation. We have a stationary bike in the living room. She's doing that 30 minutes a day and, watching her carbohydrates. So she's doing all the things she's practicing what I preach, which I'm really appreciative of because we want her around for a long time. So when we talk about genetics, there are actually ways we can test, and the mind and body actually work together in a very, very interesting way. So we have different, what we call domains, and there's a cognitive domain, there's a stress and emotional well-being domain, cardiometabolic, inflammation, we have gastrointestinal or immune, and sleep domains. And then you can see how all these genes over here on the right affect all these things. So we can actually do some gene mapping, and it's gotten more reasonable now. So if I have a patient who I'm really challenged with, I'll send them out to do one of these tests so that we can see what's causing the inflammation in their body. Why are they having cardiometabolic issues? So it's really cool technology that's out there. If you ever want to do something like that, let me know. It's probably around $275 to do a really good genetic mapping of yourself. All right, so we have a whole biology system, and these systems are so integrated, and they drive how we respond to the environment. So you can kind of see how in those same domains that we just talked about, how all these things happen. So we have absorption and metabolism, we have endocrine dysregulation. So when something happens to us, like endocrine dysregulation, we have all these factors that'll kick into play to help. Blood-brain barrier, you hear that a lot these days. The COVID virus actually crosses the blood-brain barrier. That's why people lose their taste and sense of smell. And so that's dangerous because that blood-brain barrier protects the brain from any foreign objects. So it's rare for a virus to penetrate that. And now we don't really know the long-term effect of that. So there's not enough time or studies to have been done to be able to know those answers yet. But what I want you to see here, how it's a really complex thing. I mean, we have more things going on, and you hear me say this, we have more wiring than the space shuttle, but we drive our bodies around like garbage trucks. We put crappy food in them, we bang them around, and then we get mad when they break down on us. So you can see how this whole system is so interregulated. So we have a couple of factors, and I kind of brought the ones in that I teach about for longevity. One factor is BDNF, and that's brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Regular physical activity helps to boost it. Omega-3 fatty acids, your fish oils, help to boost it. That's why you hear me say you need to take a fish oil. If you're over 50, you need to take cod liver oil. You want to avoid diets high in saturated fats and refined sugars. And NA-butyrate, you don't even know that for right now, but it does promote BDNF. So BDNF helps with working memory, which we know declines as we age. It also has a good stress response, which I know this world, and I see patients, everybody comes in and they're just stressed. That's what they always say, I'm just so stressed. And depression. So, I want to do things to do that. So that's where your physical activity comes in, eating foods like your fishes, your salmons, your flax seeds, your omega-3s, or taking them if you're not eating fish. And staying away from the sugar. Sugar actually makes BDNF decline, and it'll promote cognitive decline. Trust me, all of us need all the help we can get. So something simple like magnesium will help to support BDNF. And we use Easy Mag at the office. I have a test strip to test to see if you've done a functional medicine appointment with me. I've done a magnesium test to see how much is in your system. So magnesium improves your sleep and both the duration and the quality of sleep. So they've done double-blind, randomized clinical trials here. I teach this for doctors, so it's not something you need to know. You just need to know that magnesium helps, and that would be eating like the fresh beetroots and the beet leaves. A great source. Buckwheat are great sources of magnesium as well. Now, if you're going to go to your local grocery store or one of the big box pharmacies, you're going to get a magnesium, but it's not going to be quality. Won't be food based. And that's why you hear me say it all the time. This is why I use standard process, because it's food based. So when I give you something, it's food based. It's not going to hurt you. You're not going to have a problem with it. If I'm using herbs, I have to be a little more careful, but with your food, I mean, you can eat beets. You may not like them. If you don't like to eat them, I'm going to give it to you in a pill. So another domain that we talked about earlier is inflammation. So this is a big factor, especially in our practices. So, I know in Dr. Reed's practice as well, we're treating patients all the time they're just all flamed up. Well, if we can make some little changes in our food, we can actually decrease the inflammation, as well as exercise helps to reduce inflammation. So we want to look at factors like interleukin-6. When it's decreased, the interleukin-6 expression, it's associated with 36% of reduced risk of periodontitis. And that's a form of inflammation in our teeth. And it's a major source of systemic inflammation. So just having that systemic bacteria in your teeth can cause problems with your heart, cause neuroinflammation, and make your C-reactive protein, which is in your liver, be elevated. So we want to make sure we're mindful of that. And I think we talked about it one time before, but just simply flossing at night will protect your brain because of this. So get your flossing out. So interleukin-6 and CRP are markers that we test for systemic inflammation. So if you've done a functional medicine test with me, when I ask for blood, CRP is one of the things we test for. C-reactive protein. It's a great marker for inflammation. It lets me know if it's inflammation based on you might have a heart attack, or you might have a stroke, or if your cholesterol are in normal values or ranges, then I may suspect some type of systemic inflammation in the joint or in the muscle. So then we have a cardiometabolic domain, and I kind of picked the ones that are most important because we can't really do without our heart. So lipid metabolism and cardiovascular disease, that's a big thing you hear about. People have high cholesterol, they're given a statin automatically. Now they're saying, okay, well, if you give women a statin and their cholesterol is not that high, and even if their cholesterol is a little high, that statin may cause them to have cognitive issues later on. Now, this is all research that's coming out now, and now doctors are going, oops, maybe we shouldn't do that. And technically, statins are only supposed to be given to patients who have had a cardiovascular event. So most patients are taking a statin because doctor says to, when they could modify their diet by decreasing sugar, which we know decreases our cholesterol, our LDL, and our VLDL. So that's a really important factor there. And that's why I kind of bring this in on this 10-day sugar and inflammation, because you can see how it's so interrelated. So when we eat the dietary fat and the cholesterol, we need cholesterol. Cholesterol's not bad. I mean, we have it already naturally. We have HDL, the high, the good, and LDL, the low, the not so good, and then the VLDL, the very low density lipoprotein, is the one we want to look at. When I send you out for a lipid panel, I do test that. Most of the panels that my patients bring in when they're doing a functional medicine that I didn't send out for only have cholesterol with LDL, triglycerides, and HDL. But the VLDL, this VLDL right here down at the bottom, is the very dangerous one. That's what creates the sludge. That's what breaks off and goes to your heart to cause a heart attack, or goes to your brain to cause a stroke. We don't want those things. APOE protein, it's a lipid cholesterol transport, and it helps to clear out cellular debris. So these are all from foods that we eat. DHA supplementation, and we talk about DHA, dexamethasonic acid, is DHEA, and that's one form of the EPA DHA that make up our omega-3 fatty acids. So just supplementing with that, our brains are 65% DHA fat. So we want you eating those fish oils. That's why you tell me, I always say 4 cod liver oil a day. I want that brain working as much as we can. Studies show that it does help to decrease the risk of Alzheimer's, and it may not stop it, but the effect of it won't be as severe. And so that's a bonus. I mean, sometimes we can't help everything. We can't heal the mistakes we made in the past. We can only do better as we go forward. But also help with the transporting the DHA, which is good, across that blood-brain barrier for that neuroprotectivity, for the protection of the brain. So we use Ulprima DHA. I also like the Ulprima EPA DHA if I have a patient in particular with some cardiovascular issues and some brain health issues. So it's great for that, but also great for just inflammatory response. So it helped to lower the triglycerides and keep the HDLs at proper levels, and also for general brain health and cognition. And now, and good gut bacteria. So we get to the teeth where we want to make sure we floss the teeth, keep that systemic bacteria down. But then we have to talk about the gut, because the good gut, this is where our immune system is in the large intestine. So the genes that have the biggest bearing on your longevity are the ones inside the single cell of a bacteria that lives within your belly, in your large intestine, and in the air surrounding you. So there are trillions of them. There are hundreds of different species, and they're all differentiated by genes. And the gut bacteria plays a key role not only in digestion producing, but also produces vitamins, minerals, hormones, proteins, and nutrients. And there are trillions of those. And so we want to build the good gut bacteria so that we can have a good immune system. Also in our large intestine, our serotonin is made. 95% of our serotonin is made in our large intestine. Only 5% is made in our brain. So patients that are depressed, oftentimes they've got bad digestion, they've got bad gut. They don't have healthy gut flora, because that brain gut connection is a huge connection. So I had to chuckle because I went to it was an integrative medicine conference I was invited to. And so I was sitting there, and the doctor that was talking up front was like, did you know there's a gut brain connection? And I'm looking around like, I've been teaching that for 15 years. I don't know where you've been. And he was just so amazed at that. But think about it. How many times have you said, I have a gut feeling, or I have butterflies in my stomach? All those things are that gut-brain connection. It's been there forever. Like I said, I've been teaching for 15 years. So like I said, where have they been? But it was good that they figured that out. So we have gut bacteria that's bad that will cause inflammation. We have some that's good that'll combat inflammation. And inflammation is another factor that leads to the diseases of aging, which are Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and dementia. So when we looked at these things, we wanted to make sure the good bacteria was built. And so I use something like ProSymbiotic, which is a pre and probiotic. So you're feeding the good guys, which helps to build the gut flora. A lot of my patients are trying to do the right thing, and they're taking a probiotic, but the probiotic doesn't feed the good guys. So you're putting them in, and you don't feed the guys, so they die. So you have to keep putting them in. So I use a ProSymbiotic to help to build that good gut bacteria, which is your immune system. And these days of, the past 2 years now with COVID, we understand the importance of an immune system and how we've trashed it over the years. Not me personally. So we want to starve the bad bacteria. And the way we do that is to get rid of sugar, because they love sugar, that bad bacteria. That's their favorite thing to eat. So the key to longevity is to feed the good bacteria and starve the bad bacteria. So we consume foods with prebiotics to feed the good guys. And then those are like your fibrous root vegetables, mushrooms, kimchi, sauerkraut. And you don't have to eat the whole jar. I'm talking a spoonful a day. So speaking of sugar, we know what holiday is right around the corner. So I just want you to be aware and be very careful. So we have Casper, our friendly ghost, looking out for us here. So do you know how many calories are in a Halloween candy? We kind of talked about this on Monday, but I thought I'd show you the real package. So 110 calories for 15 pieces. And so in this bag, there are 10 servings in here. I know most people would just eat the whole bag, not the bag included, but everything in the bag. So zero fat, zero saturated fat, zero trans fat, yay. No cholesterol. And the reason why there's no cholesterol in there, cholesterol only comes from animal sources. Animal only comes from animal fat. Total carbohydrate for 15 pieces is 28 grams. There's no dietary fiber. There are 23 grams of added sugar, and there's no protein. And here's the anatomy of a corn the other day. I gave it to you the other day, but I like this one better. 10% skeletal bone, 60% pumpkin guts, and 30% zombie toenails. So if that doesn't turn you off to eating that, I don't know what will. But here are the ingredients we talked about the other day. And remember, they're always put on the label in the order of importance, or the increased amount of. So the first ingredient is sugar, second ingredient corn sugar, third ingredient confectioner's glaze, which is sugar, salt, cocoa powder, hydrogenated. We want to stay away from that. Palm kernel oil. So you're blocking up your arteries with that. We have gelatin. We have, and remember, gelatin is just chewed up bones. When they at a slaughterhouse, they take all the bones and they boil them down to make gelatin. Dextrose is another form of sugar. Honey, which is sugar. Artificial flavors, and I throw a little sesame oil in there. I guess that's to make it look shiny. Soy lecithin, which kind of goes along with this palm kernel oil, and all your dyes, your pretty colored dyes. So not the best choice. So this is what 100 calories look like. So 25 grams of carbohydrates looks like this. That's not a lot. This is what 100 calories, 25 grams of carbohydrates looks like. I mean, so 3.5 pumpkins. Remember, I don't eat this. I just put them, I get these pictures off of Dr. Google. Once again, 100 calories, not a whole lot. So there are options. My sister does a great Halloween thing, so I'm always sharing things with her. But these are just great. They're healthy options. And they're fun. So we can see the apple with the strawberry and the peanut butter and the, I think those are little nuts for the teeth, so you can have some fun things as well. The bats with some guacamole, so great options. So try offering healthy snacks if you're having kids over. I know we can't hand these out to kids, but in our neighborhood, they would trust to do this. We just lock our door anyway. So after this 10 days, we have what I call non-scale victories. So we notice our clothes fit better. We have more energy. We have improved endurance. We have better sleep quality. We have fewer cravings. We feel healthier, and we just overall feel better. So when we look at the scale, I always put this in here because I have patients that haven't been on this before, but I always want to tell you that the scale doesn't measures all of your body weight, not just your fat. So it doesn't tell you what a great person you are. Doesn't know that, can't tell you that you're a great, smart, funny person. So you have self-worth and you have the power to choose happiness. So it's just a number. We just want that number to be a better number. So I always fix the scale for you by just breaking it. That's my best way to do that. Now we use the InBody because of that. I think that's important because you really get the correct information. We get our body fat, our BMI, our muscle mass. And then when we go to retest, from that test, I can actually show you where you lose the fat, where you put the muscle on. Because if your weight doesn't change, that doesn't mean you weren't successful, but it means you burned fat and you built muscle. So we always want that to go in that direction. That's why that InBody is so important to me, especially for my patients, especially my female patients are very challenged losers. And I find that they get frustrated. But if I can show them, okay, your weight may only drop down a little bit here, but you put all this muscle on because you're exercising, and you took all this fat off. And it also measures visceral fat, belly fat, which is the most dangerous kind. So it's nice to be able to have those values available to see for yourself. So after the 10 days, this is what we're going to do. We're going to give you some rules. I call them the rules of low carb eating. So just the basics: meat, fish, eggs, vegetables growing above the ground, and natural fats like butter. And when you get your meat, fish, and eggs, try to get them so that they're organically sourced vegetables. But and I mean by that, meats are grass-fed, grass-finished. Your fish is wild caught. Your eggs are free range, and as well as your chickens. So cage-free means they're just in a big room. not in a cage. That's not healthy. But if they're free range, that means they're outside running around, eating bugs, being with Dr. Sunshine, and that's the way chickens should be. You want to avoid sugar, starchy foods like bread, pasta, rice, beans, and potatoes. I'm not saying you can never have them, but now that you've seen what the damage they can do to your body, it's kind of a hard choice to make them to have them again. So for Thanksgiving coming up, try mashed cauliflower instead of mashed potatoes. Have sweet potatoes instead of white potatoes. So there are ways that you can kind of go around that. So eat when you're hungry, stop when you're satisfied. And if you can be that simple, you don't need to really count calories. So I like to, you don't have to weigh your food either, but if you, once you kind of figure out what you need to eat, that this is 3 ounces of meat, but it's just watching really the carbohydrates. So if you keep your carbohydrates under 100 in a day, I'm not saying you can't have a carbohydrate. I'm just saying keep it under 100. Because remember on Monday, we talked that most people are doing 295 grams a day. So that's a lot more grams of carbohydrates, and that's why people are getting this midsection, the broad midsection. And don't use low-fat products, because the low-fat products, they take the good fat out and they put sugar in to make it taste good. So stay away from the no fat. So if you're going to have yogurt, get a good Greek yogurt that's full fat. If you're going to have cottage cheese, get a good full fat cottage cheese. If you're going to use creamer in your coffee or your tea, get organic whipping cream, because it's all fat. There's no carbohydrates in it. Half and half is half milk and half cream. So there are going to be carbohydrates in it. But the full fat of the organic whipping cream will keep you satiated. You won't get hungry. So look at this. I mean, to me, that's really beautiful. I could, that would be a meal for, 3 or 4 days at least. But to me, it just looks really good. And like I said, we kind of in our household have gone a little bit more plant-based protein. Not that we don't eat animal protein, but we do, most of it is vegetable protein. Like our Veggie Pro shakes is where I get most of my vegetable protein. So I've kind of switched over to that. I like that. There will be days where I don't do any animal protein. We do eggs, we do fish, we do grass-fed beef every once in a while, but not just on a every day. Usually we do vegetables every night during the weekdays. So here's what to eat. This is kind of gives you a visual of what we talked about on Monday. So when you want to eat fewer carbs. So your olive oil, your butter, your cream, there's no fat and no carbohydrates in it. Zilch, nada, zilch, zero. Fish and seafood, no carbohydrates. Your cheese, now be careful with cheese. Remember, white cheese is what you want to do because what color is cow's milk? It's white, not orange. But cheese, it's a fine line. I notice when I do eat more cheese, I do tend to put on a little bit more fat. I don't know if it's the hormones in the milk of the cheese. I'm not really sure, but I tend to just use it sparingly. Your cauliflowers, all your vegetables that grow above ground have 1 to 5 carbohydrates in them. Your eggs is 1 carbohydrate. Your meat has 0. So eat an avocado a day. If you're eating an avocado, so my day to break my fast in the morning, sometimes I'll do 2 hard-boiled eggs cut up with a whole avocado over a bed of spinach, and I'll sprinkle a little fresh grated Parmesan cheese and maybe an olive oil on it. But that's how I start my day. It's a full fat day. So I rarely get hungry after that. So what to avoid? So just look at these carbohydrates here. Look at a banana. Yeah, people think bananas are good for them. Well, 6 to 20 grams of carbohydrates in a banana. And most people don't go buy the little bananas. We have a banana palm, and the bananas are that big. But most people go get a full banana from the store, and they're trying to lose weight, and they're putting a banana in their shake, and they can't figure out why. It's the good calories and bad calories. So if you want to get that book that Gary Taubes wrote, it's an awesome book. That'll give you a little bit more of the in-depth explanation. Your white potatoes, 15 grams of fat per serving. Pasta cooked, 29 grams. Rice cooked, 28 grams. A beer, 13 grams. And look at your soda and your juice. So people, are drinking orange juice. Now, when I was growing up, my grandmother had orange juice glasses that were like that big. Now you get these, 16-ounce glasses, and they fill it with juice, which you think is healthy. And look at 52 grams of carbohydrates in a glass of juice. So most people are starting their breakfast with cereal, which is sugar, or oatmeal, which is sugar, and they put fruit on it, and then they drink a glass of orange juice and maybe have a toast or an English muffin with it. All sugar. So start your day with protein instead. You'll keep your blood sugar more level and you won't get hungry. Look at your chocolate bar, 60 grams. M&Ms, 70 grams. Bread, 46 grams. Donuts, 49 grams. That's a lot. So if I tell you to eat less than 100 calories, you're going to eat foods more like this than this. I'm not saying you can't have a potato. You can have one or two and then you're pretty much done for the day. You can have all three of these, but that's your 100 grams. You can't have anything else. So I would choose wisely. Remember, it's a choice. So when you look at what to drink, water has 0 carbs. Coffee has 0 carbs. It's all the crapola we put in it. Tea has 0 carbs. Red wine, okay. White wine is not. Why? Because there's more sugar in it. So red wine only has 2 grams of sugar in it. Now, notice the amount of pour in that glass. It's not all the way to the top. So 4 to 6 ounces is your accurate pour, not 8 to 12. So I thought I'd just show you a comparison of what grams of carbohydrates look like in 2 different ways. So on your right, you see the bagel. That's 20 grams. So half a bagel is 20 grams of carbohydrates. And to the left is a plate of 20 grams of vegetables. So the left is a plate of foods that are nutrition rich and fiber dense. The right is not. The only difference between what I say, the difference between cake and rat poison is the sugar. So it's basically poison that you're putting in yourself. High carbohydrates, so 20 grams of carbohydrates in each plate. So that's a small potato, a little bit of pasta, a little bit of rice, and half a bagel. Not saying you can't have them, but you want to eat foods that are more nutrition rich and fiber dense. So here's 20 grams on each plate of your berries, of your veggies, of your nuts, of your spinach. So that's going to be much more satisfying for you because you're going to feel full. And put some real butter. We saute our spinach in real butter with some garlic, and it's amazing. We use fresh blueberries at night. We freeze our blueberries. We put them in a dish. We sprinkle a little bit of monk fruit or stevia over, whatever, erythritol, whatever you want to use. And then we pour organic whipping cream over top. So it freezes, so it becomes almost like a blueberry ice cream. And then nuts. Macadamia nuts are probably my favorite. Of course, I'm going to pick the most expensive nut. Marianne doesn't appreciate that, but she still buys them for me. But nuts are great because they're low in carbohydrates, but they're high in fat, good fat, and a little bit of protein, more fat than protein. So I cut these out of, this is from dietdoctor.com. I use that website to teach from. It's a great website. It is a paid for website. It's like $9.95 a month. But you can set up menu plans, meal plans, and things like that. And they've got great information. So I just cut these down so you can see what a week would look like. So here's Monday for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So a low carb granola with yogurt and raspberries, 14 grams of carbohydrates, a keto pizza omelet, 8 grams, a keto salmon burger with mash and lemon. So this is probably a broccoli mash, 7 grams of carbohydrates. So that's a pretty awesome day. I mean, that food looks really good. And it's not, those are really easy recipes. They give you the recipes as well. Very easy to make. So, Tuesday, the same breakfast. And then, so this is what we do at home as well. Whatever we make for dinner, like last night, we have for lunch the next day. So we just kind of keep moving around that. We're not making a bunch of meals. You can make more of that meal to be able to have for the next day. So they use the Caesar salad here, a low carb cauliflower pizza, so you can just keep it simple in the morning. I just recommend to do a shake because you're starting your day with protein then and almost 0 carbs. So, I mean, these all look pretty yummy. I mean, there's not anything here I wouldn't not eat. Maybe I'm not a big fan of bacon, but I like the way it smells, but I still would eat it. So that's kind of a weeks long, recipe there. So, I mean, I think that gives you a good idea that it doesn't have to be, you don't have to feel like you're starving to death. If you're eating this way, you will not be hungry. I can guarantee that. And, the moment you dump sugar in your system, your body's like, oh, you've given me my drug back. I want more. So the other way we can kind of add these things in is intermittent fasting. So intermittent fasting, there's a couple different ways to do it, but researchers have said that it can extend the lifespan of mice by merely limiting their food on alternate days or by cutting down the amount of protein they consume, because that will still raise your blood sugar. So as we age, we don't need that much food. This thinks we need that much food. Our body technically doesn't. It decreases diseases. Also, there's published medical peer-reviewed documents saying that intermittent fasting decreases diseases like Alzheimer's, diabetes, and depression, reduces oxidative stress and inflammation. Oxidative stress is one of the things that can be cancer productive, reducing obesity, hypertension, asthma, and rheumatoid arthritis. Increases your metabolic rate, and that which then equals weight loss. So the more energy you require to move your body because you're carrying more muscle, the more you eat, the more it gets burned up. So there's a lot of benefits, weight, body fat loss, increased fat burning, lowered blood insulin sugar levels, possibly the reversal of type 2. And I won't say possible. It is possible. I have patients who have reduced that. They were taking metformin, they're not on metformin anymore. Possibly improved mental clarity, concentration, increased energy, increased growth hormone, at least for a short period of time, so that our bodybuilders will do a lot of intermittent fasting to increase the growth hormone to help muscle growth, improve cholesterol, blood profiles, longer life, and also clears the cells by stimulating autophagy. And that's kind of the body eating the bad cells. So the body recognizes, okay, those cells are not good, or they're aging cells. We're going to eat those, get rid of them so we can have fresh ones. And then a big reduction in inflammation. So I've been intermittent fasting now since 2017. On Monday and Wednesday, I do a 16-8. On Tuesday, Thursday, I do an 18-6. And Friday, it works out to be kind of a 20-hour fast and a 4-hour feed. So when we eat, we increase insulin. Then we store that sugar in the liver, which produces fat in the liver. So you hear the word fatty liver. But if you fast, so you don't eat, you decrease your insulin, and then you start burning stored sugar and you burn fat. So when you get hungry and you don't eat, your body then will say, okay, he or she are not feeding me. I'm going to use fat for my fuel. So that's the whole idea of getting your body to get away from the carbs so your body can utilize the fat, which is a better burning energy anyway. So that's what then reduces the body fat. So there's a couple different types. So simple fasting is just 12 hours. If you go to bed at 8, don't eat till after 8 the next day. 16 hours, so that's a 16-hour fast and an 8-hour feed. So do that 3 times a week. And that doesn't mean for that 8 hours, when we call it an 8-hour feed, that you eat for those 8 hours. I eat 2 meals. Strong fast, 16 to 18 hours daily. Warrior fast is 19 to 21 hours daily. And then there's a 1-day fast. For every week, you do a full 24-hour fast once a week. And then there's a 3 and 30, so you do 3 days of fasting and 30. So there's a bunch of different types. I would recommend either the 12-hour fast or the 16-8. Those are probably the easiest. So if you eat your dinner at 6:30, you don't eat again until 10:30. Now I do what I call fat fasting, meaning I have my tea with my organic whipping cream in there. So I do that in the morning, and then I usually eat my lunch or my breakfast at 10:30. So that way, that gives me that 16-hour of fast. So this is just stuff that we've already talked about. I just want to kind of reiterate it. So your fats, your good fats, are your avocado oils, your nut oils, all your expeller pressed oils, coconut oil, olive oil, never had tiger nut oil, rendered animal fat. You can occasionally use the palm oil as long as they're not hydrogenated. Sunflower oil, same thing. All those are good oils, but if they're hydrogenated, can't have them. And you definitely want, if you have canola, if you have vegetable oil in your house, corn oil, soy oil, or margarine, get rid of it. Use the oil to kill weeds and just recycle your bottle. If it's not open, it's hard for me to tell you to give it to the food bank. Just don't buy it again. It's just not good for you. You're never going to use it again. You already see the bad side of that. I go into more depth than that when we do our 21-day in January, but just hear me now, believe me later. So sleep tips, prayer, meditation, clean diet, early morning sunlight, sometimes letting yourself wake up with the sunlight, which is challenging to do when the time changes. Write in a journal about your day before you go to bed so you get it out of your head onto paper. Don't work where you sleep. Your bed is for sleeping and intimacy, not watching TV and not reading a book. If you want to read a book, I'm okay with that as long as it's a book. no electronic devices, no electronics 2 hours before bed. And then sound therapy is also really helpful. So supplementation wise, we at home, we use Mintran. Minchex is another thing we use. Magnesium. We showed you that study. Kava Forte kind of helps like to calm the system. Valerian complex, another way to calm the system. So those are really good supplementations to use for helping with sleep. Exercise, you have to have both strength and cardio. Remember, strength is like paying off your mortgage, and your cardio is like paying off your credit card. You have to do your credit card every month, and that's just the way it is. But once you pay off your mortgage, your house is paid for. You just have to maintain. So, but you have to do both. So cardio is great, but you have to work the rest of your body, especially as we age. The more fall risk we have if our muscles aren't strong and the bones aren't protected by the muscles. So please add those in there. And flexibility, I just incorporate it with my workout in the day. Sweeteners, so you want to avoid the green pack, the blue pack, the yellow pack, and the pink pack. We want to do no processed sugar. We want to stay away from that. You could do a natural sugar like beet sugar and things like that, but just be mindful. It's still sugar, but get something that's organic. Use honey in small amounts, maple syrup, monk fruit, stevia, and any of your sugar alcohols if they don't bother you. So monk fruit, we use a little bit more monk fruit than we do stevia. Stevia has a tendency to be a little bit bitter. So recommended for supplementation after the 10-day is Catalin, which is a multi, trace mineral with B12, and some type of fish oil, either tuna. If you're over 50, cod liver oil. And I push it to four pearls of cod liver oil a day because you get naturally found vitamin A, naturally found vitamin D, the liver from the cod, because I think any of you are eating liver, and the omega-3s. Gymnema, if you still feel like you have a sweet tooth, you can always continue the Gymnema. The Boswellia complex, I would say we'll switch you to turmeric forte, much better for inflammatory support. And if you need some liver support, if you're carrying a lot of belly fat, we need to get rid of that. We need to give you some liver support so we can use Liviplex. So also on Wednesday, when we do the heart sound recorder, we're going to test your heart, and it lets the way we read the S1s and the S2s and the PQRS let us know, how far they're spaced apart, what nutrition you need. And so it's pretty cool because we've done, with us doctors, we play around with it. So we'll test ourselves, and then we'll take something like Cataplex B4, B-Core. So it's heavy doses of magnesium, beets, and vitamin D, naturally found. And I'll put them in and just chew them, and then they'll retest, and it will change. It'll help with AFib. I mean, it's just amazing. So I'm excited for you to see that. So remember, health is a journey. It's not a destination. You don't just get to your weight and go, okay, I'm done. No, we want to continue. So for me, it's been a journey I've taken over many years. I found when I learned something, I do better. I drank soda, I used saccharin, I did Splenda. I didn't know better, but when I found out what it did, I stopped. So I drink wine. But we don't drink on school nights, and the 21 days we didn't do that either. So just be mindful of those things. Don't go back to where you started. You took 10 days out of your life to make an improvement. And remember, it's a choice, whatever you put in your mouth. So our next journey begins in January 10th. Also for Dr. Reed, we're going to do the 21-day. So you have the chance to do either the 21-day purification program, or you can do the new detox balance program. Both are 21 days. One is pill supplemented, one is just in the shake. And it'll be your choice. We start January 10th. So we'll be sending out emails. And then in February, we'll retest everybody that we tested for next week. We'll retest them. And if you haven't been tested then, we'll test you at the end in February. And Dr. Reed will make something happen for your practice as well. So I want to thank you. You guys have been awesome. And we will see you in January 10th.